The gavel struck the wood with a sound like a pistol shot. In the Old Bailey, the silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. The air smelled of unwashed bodies, fear, and the damp wool of the lawyers' robes. Lord Silas Vance, the High Court Judge of London, sat high upon his bench. He sat perfectly still, his eyes covered by a band of black silk. He was known throughout England as the Blind Wolf. He was ruthless. He was precise. He had never lost a case as a prosecutor, and he had never shown mercy as a judge. He leaned forward. The courtroom held its breath. "Prisoner at the bar," Silas said. His voice was low, scraping against the silence. "You have been found guilty of the murder of Lord Kensington. The evidence is irrefutable. You poisoned his wine. You watched him die. Do you have anything to say before I pass sentence?" The prisoner stood in the dock. She was a woman of perhaps 30, though the dirt and bruises made her look older. She wore a torn grey dress. Her hands were shackled. She looked at the blind man who held her life in his hands. She opened her cracked lips. "I have nothing to say to you, my lord," she whispered. "Justice is blind, but today it is also deaf." Silas didn't flinch. He had heard every insult, every plea. Then, by the power vested in me by the Crown, Silas announced, "I sentence you to hang by the neck until dead. May God have mercy on your soul." He struck the gavel again. "Dismissed." The guards grabbed the woman. She didn't scream, she didn't fight. She walked past the bench, her chains rattling, and then it happened. As she passed him, a draught from the open door caught her skirts. It carried a scent toward the judge. It wasn't the smell of the prison. It wasn't the smell of the London fog. It was the smell of wild heather and sea salt and lemons. Silas froze. His hand, reaching for his cane, stopped in mid-air. The world stopped. The noise of the courtroom faded into a dull roar. That scent. He hadn't smelled that scent in 15 years, not since the summer in Cornwall, not since the fire that took his sight. "Stop!" Silas roared. The command was so loud, so uncharacteristic, that the guards froze instantly. The woman stopped, looking back at him. "Bring her back," Silas ordered. His voice was shaking. "My lord?" the prosecutor asked, confused. "The sentence is passed. Bring her closer!" Silas shouted, standing up. He knocked over his water glass. It shattered, but he didn't care. The guards dragged the woman back to the foot of the bench. Silas leaned down. He inhaled deeply. Heather, salt, lemons. It was impossible. She was dead. She had died in the fire. He had heard her scream. "Who are you?" Silas whispered. "What is your name?" The woman looked at him, her eyes filled with tears. "My name is Mary," she lied. "Mary Smith." "Liar," Silas breathed. He reached out a hand, blindly searching. "Give me your hand," he commanded. The guard hesitated, then placed the woman's shackled hand in Silas's. Silas ran his thumb over. Her knuckles, they were rough, scarred, but the bone structure, the delicate wrist. He moved his hand up. He found her ring finger. It was bare, but there, just below the knuckle, was a tiny raised scar. A scar from a fishhook caught on a sunny afternoon on a boat in St. Ives. Silas pulled his hand back as if burned. He collapsed into his chair. "Clear the court," he rasped. "My lord, clear the court now, or I will hold every man here in contempt." The lawyers and spectators scrambled for the exits. Within minutes the great hall was empty, save for the blind judge, the prisoner, and 2 confused guards. "Leave us," Silas told the guards. "Wait outside the door." "But she is a murderer, my lord." "She is in chains," Silas snapped. "Get out." The guards left. The heavy doors boomed shut. Silas sat in the darkness of his blindness. He could hear her breathing. It was a ragged, hitching sound. "Elise," he whispered. The woman let out a sob. A broken, terrible sound. "Why didn't you tell me?" Silas asked, his voice cracking. "You stood there. You let me sentence you to death. Why?" "Because you are the law," Elise wept, "and I am a killer." It seemed fitting. Silas stood up. He fumbled for his cane, then threw it aside. He navigated the steps of the bench by memory, stumbling toward her. He found her. He wrapped his arms around her, chains and all. He buried his face in her hair. The scent was stronger now. It smelled of home. "You are alive," he murmured, touching her face, tracing her features. "I thought you burned. I tried to find you in the smoke." "I saw you fall," Elise whispered against his chest. "I saw the beam hit your face. They dragged you out. They told me you were blind. They told me you had been taken to London. And you?" "I had nothing, Silas. My face—" She tried to pull away, but he held her tight. "The fire took half my face," she said. "I am a monster, Silas. I couldn't come to you, not like this. I wanted you to remember me as I was, the girl on the boat, not this." Silas touched her cheek. He felt the puckered skin on the left side. The scars. "I cannot see the scars, Elise," he said softly. "I can only see the woman who taught me how to sail." He held her for a long moment. Then the reality of the situation crashed down on him. "You are convicted," he said, pulling back. "You are to hang in 2 days. I know." "Did you do it?" Silas asked. "Did you kill Lord Kensington?" Elise hesitated. "Tell me the truth," he pleaded. "I need to know." "I poured the wine," she said. "I handed him the goblet. He drank. He died. But did you poison it?" Elise took a breath. "I wanted him dead, Silas. He was a beast. He bought me from the workhouse. He beat me. He beat the other servants." "Did you poison it?" Silas pressed. "No," she whispered. "I wanted to. God knows I wanted to, but I didn't put the powder in. I am not a murderer." Silas gripped her shoulders. "Then who did?" "I don't know. It was only me and his nephew, Charles, in the room." Charles poured the wine from the decanter. I handed the glass. "Charles," Silas mused, "the heir, the man who testified against you, the man who cried on the stand, he inherited everything, didn't he?" "Yes." Silas's mind began to race. He wasn't just a lover now. He was the blind wolf, the prosecutor. He saw the pattern instantly. "He framed you," Silas said. "It is a classic play. The nephew kills the uncle, blames the disfigured servant who has a motive. He will get away with it," Elise said. "You sentence me, Silas. The verdict is recorded. You cannot undo it." "I am the judge," Silas said fiercely. "I can do whatever I damn well please." He called the guards back in. "Take her to my chambers," he ordered. "Your chambers, my lord? The Newgate cells are—" "I said my chambers. She is a material witness in a new investigation. If a hair on her head is harmed, I will hang you in her place." For the next 24 hours, the blind judge broke every law in England. He didn't sleep. He had Elise describe the night of the murder in forensic detail. The smell of the room, the sound of the nephew's voice, the exact sequence of the pouring. "Tell me about the wine," Silas asked, pacing the rug of his private study. "It was red," Elise said. "A vintage claret. Lord Kensington complained it smelled like vinegar." "Vinegar?" Silas stopped. "Yes, he said it had turned." "Arsenic doesn't smell like vinegar," Silas muttered. "It smells of almonds." "Or nothing at all. What poison smells like vinegar?" He went to his bookshelf. He ran his fingers over the spines until he found his volume on toxicology. He opened it, though he couldn't read. "Read page 402, he told Elise. "Acetic acid poisons," Elise read. "Monkshood, wolfsbane." In liquid form, it can have a sharp, acidic scent. Wolfsbane, Silas said. It grows in the shade. Does Kensington Hall have a garden? Yes, Elise said. The nephew, Charles. He is a botanist. He has a greenhouse. Silas smiled, a cold, predatory smile. He is a botanist, and he claimed he didn't pour the wine. He said he opened the bottle, but I poured it into the glass. Silas tapped his cane on the floor. If he'd put wolfsbane in the bottle, the vinegar smell would be overpowering. Kensington would have smelled it the moment the cork was popped. Unless the glass was already poisoned, Elise finished. Exactly, a wash. A concentrated drop dried at the bottom of the goblet. When the wine hits it, it dissolves. Silas stood up. We are going to Kensington Hall, but I am a prisoner, Elise cried. You are my bailiff for the day, Silas said. Put on a cloak, cover your face. They rode to the estate. Silas used his badge of office to force entry. He demanded to see the nephew, Charles Kensington, the new lord. Charles met them in the library. He sounded nervous. My Lord Judge, this is highly irregular. The woman is to hang tomorrow. There has been a complication, Silas lied smoothly. A new witness. I need to verify the scene of the crime. He walked around the room, tapping his cane. He used his ears. He heard the slight tremble in Charles's breath. He smelled the sweat of a guilty man. Show me the greenhouse, Silas said. The greenhouse? Charles's heart rate seemed to spike. Silas could hear the shift in his breathing. Why? I have an interest in botany, Silas said. They walked to the garden. The air was thick and humid inside the glass structure. Silas stopped. He sniffed. Orchids, roses, and to something sharp, something acidic, hidden under the smell of damp earth. Elise squeezed his arm. She guided his hand to a shelf in the back. Silas felt a row of pots. He touched a leaf. It was jagged, hairy. Wolfsbane, he whispered to Elise. She tapped his hand once. Yes. Silas turned to Charles. You grow dangerous things, my lord, Silas said. Medicinal, Charles squeaked. For rats? Indeed. Silas turned to leave. He had what he needed, but he needed a confession, and he knew how to get it. The next morning, the court was reconvened. The gallery was packed. Word had spread that the blind wolf had halted an execution. Silas sat on the bench. Elise stood in the dock. But this time, Charles Kensington was also present, sitting in the front row, looking indignant. I have reviewed the evidence, Silas announced, and I have found a discrepancy. He signalled to the bailiff, bring the wine. The bailiff brought a tray. On it was a bottle of claret and 2 goblets. Lord Kensington, Silas said, pointing a finger at Charles. Please, step forward. Charles walked to the bench. What is this, my lord? A test, Silas said. You testified that the maid poisoned the glass. She claims the poison was in the bottle. There is only one way to be sure. Silas reached out. He picked up the bottle. I have recreated the condition, Silas said. One of these vessels contains wolfsbane. The other is pure. He poured wine into both glasses. Drink, Silas commanded. Charles went pale. Drink? I cannot. It is morning. Drink, Silas roared. If you are innocent and she poisoned the glass that night, then the bottle is safe. You have nothing to fear. He pushed a goblet toward Charles. Charles looked at the wine. He looked at Elise. He looked at the judge. He knew that wolfsbane smelled like vinegar. He leaned in to sniff it. Don't sniff it, Silas snapped. Drink it like a man. Charles's hand shook. He lifted the glass. He brought it to his lips. He stopped. I can't, he whispered. Why not? Because... Charles looked around the room. Because she might have poisoned the bottle too. "She was in chains when I bought this bottle," Silas shouted. "Drink it or confess." Charles dropped the glass. It shattered. Red wine spilled across the floor like blood. "I did it!" Charles screamed, breaking under the pressure of the blind man's stare. "I did it! He was going to disinherit me. He was going to leave it all to the church. I had to." The courtroom erupted. "Guards!" Silas bellowed. "Arrest that man!" As Charles was dragged away, weeping, silence fell again. Silas turned his face toward the dock. "Elise, Mary Smith," he corrected himself for the record. "You are acquitted. The sentence is vacated. You are free to go." Elise stood there, stunningly free. She looked at Silas. She waited. Silas stood up. He removed his wig. He removed his robes of office. He stepped down from the bench. He walked across the floor, his cane tapping. He stopped in front of the dock. He reached through the railing and took her hand. "I am resigning," he said, loud enough for the whole court to hear. Gasps. "Why?" Elise whispered. "Because a judge cannot be impartial when the defendant is his heart," Silas said. He unlocked the gate of the dock himself. He led her out, past the stunned lawyers, past the cheering crowd, and into the sunlight. They moved to the coast, to the cottage in Cornwall where they had met. Silas never regained his sight, but he said he didn't need it. He learned to see the world through Elise's descriptions. And Elise, she stopped hiding her face. She realized that to the only man who mattered, she was perfect. One evening, sitting by the fire, she asked him, "How did you know?" "In the greenhouse." "How did you know which pot was the wolfsbane?" "You couldn't see it." Silas smiled. He reached out and took her hand. "I didn't," he admitted. "And in the courtroom?" "Both glasses were harmless. I poured them from my own cellar." Elise gasped. "You bluffed. You risked my life on a bluff." "I gambled on his fear," Silas said. "A guilty man always thinks the trap is real. An innocent man drinks the wine." He kissed her knuckles. "Besides," he added, "I knew I would win." "Why?" "Because I finally saw the truth," he said. "And justice, my love, is only blind when it chooses to be. It's a story about the senses. We rely so much on our eyes that we forget to listen, to smell, to feel." Silas found the truth because he was forced to look deeper than the surface. And it brings us to a terrifying thought. If you were on trial for your life and the evidence was against you, who would you trust to judge you? A stranger with perfect eyesight, or a loved one who was blind? I think I'd take the blind man. He's the only one who really sees me. If you believe that true love is the ultimate justice, bang that gavel on the like button, case closed. And if you want to be part of our jury, hit subscribe. We are always in session. Until next time, trust your gut, not just your eyes.